Boom! What's going on, everyone? It's Rahman Mustafa.
It's Emmanuel.
And it's the Ends to Excellence podcast. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, so today we have a special guest.
Woo.
We've got Kwame Peprah in the building.
Yes.
Welcome.
That's so special. I'm honoured. Thank you for the
Bro, thank you for coming, bro. We appreciate you. So,
only key people get selected still.
You done know.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
So, for those that don't know, Kwame is a Principle Pharmacist and a non-medical prescriber at South London Maudsley NHS Trust. He's currently responsible for leading the Trust pharmacy services in Lambeth Borough 3 days a week.
Okay.
Doing a lot still. He's also a visiting lecturer at the University of Hertfordshire and the director of Med Solutions Limited and also the founder of the Daddy Series podcast.
Dope.
Excellent. So he was also awarded a part-time scholarship to do an MBA.
Yeah, that's
excellent in Nottingham University Business School. So thank you for joining us on the podcast, bro.
No, thank you, my bro.
We appreciate you. So I'm telling you. So one of the first things we always ask our guests is, what ends are you from, brother?
Wow, you make me feel like I'm in Peckham McDonald's or
Bro,
something.
that's how it is, isn't it?
It's real life.
You have to rep still.
I'm from Stockwell. SW
Southwest. Okay, cool. Dope. And what industry would you say that you're excelling in right now?
At the moment, I'd say healthcare, specifically psychiatry. So that's what I specialise in. So even though I'm a site lead pharmacist, it is a psychiatric hospital.
Okay.
So it's one of probably the most popular and world-renowned psychiatric institution in terms of research, in terms of writing guidelines, in terms of referring patients which other trusts might struggle to treat. So as well as management, there's also a clinical aspect to it in terms of seeing patients, having an influence on guidelines, research and that kind of thing. So that's what I'm kind of doing at the moment. The other 2 days I spend prescribing, and also I've got my company as well, which again is in the healthcare sector. So that's where my main focus is right now, healthcare.
Okay, cool, dope. So how did your journey start in this industry, brother? We can go as far back as you like.
Take you back
on the days and Stocky.
Okay, so do you know what? Initially, I wanted to be an electrical engineer. So we're talking school times. Yeah.
Okay. As in secondary school.
Yeah, secondary school. But you know what? I got into physics and I found it wasn't really my strong point. I didn't really like it too much. My strength was probably in chemistry, maths, and a bit of biology as well.
Okay.
So with those subjects, you know, when you're sitting around the table with your parents and they're asking you what you want to do, you know, they're kind of pushing me towards medicine.
Okay.
To be fair, I wanted to be a rapper.
So what's your rap name?
So
what's your rap name first? We're going to get into that. What's your rap name first?
We're getting into that.
So, cool. We'll get back and we'll drop a freestyle at the end, innit? That's cool.
Exclusive.
Yeah. So we had to be somewhere in the middle. And the middle ended up being pharmacy. But what persuaded me towards the pharmacy career was that at the time there was a demand for jobs. So obviously you're thinking about, I just want to study something that I can get a job straight after, make some money, and you know the word was, you know, pharmacists get good money, they get that respect, you know, in terms of like the culture that we're from, you know, my son's a pharmacist, like something to be proud of. So I thought, okay, do you know what, let me pursue that road. So literally after my GCSEs, when I went to college, SFX, did chemistry, biology, maths. However, when you come from a boys' school and you jump into a mixed school, college, there's a lot of distractions, as well as, you know, you're getting older and you get influences around you in terms of like where you live and stuff like that. So, to be fair, in secondary school, I was a pretty good student in terms of academic. Like, you know, I'd say my grades were good. Do you know what I mean? When I got to college, it started to dwindle a bit. You start getting distracted. So yeah, even though I wanted to be a pharmacist, like the grades weren't looking too promising. I remember my form tutor like saying to me, "Yo, like, are you sure?"
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? So I managed to get some offers anyway for pharmacy, but do you know what? I think I left it too late to focus on my studies. Like, you know, you're spending time just doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing. So I didn't get the grades that I wanted to get. So I ended up going to Kingston for 1 year doing pharmaceutical science.
Okay. So what was that? Was that like a foundation year, or was that like?
Nah, so this was
straight on.
Yeah, this was straight on. So I was actually going to do a master's program in pharmaceutical science.
Okay.
Which was 4 years.
So where did you want to do that one in the beginning, or was that in Kingston as well?
No, so that was either going to be in De Montfort or Kingston. Okay. Yeah, so those two. So I'll get back to that.
Okay.
Those two universities. Out of all the universities in the UK, I picked those two. Yeah. Anyway, we'll touch on that later. So yeah, went to Kingston, and in my head, I just thought, I'm going to do pharmaceutical science, get a job in the pharmaceutical industry, and that's me.
Yeah.
And then the vibe in Kingston was just nice, like made friends, it was local. Yeah. So I thought, like this is me. Yeah. So did my first year, and I did quite well in my first year. Okay. So I was just like, cool, I'm gonna go back. My dad was like, why don't you look at, the pharmacy degree again? Yeah. See if you can jump on to the pharmacy degree after completing your first year in pharmaceutical science, because that was like a common pathway.
Very good look.
I was like, nah, do you know what? Nah. I'm settled in Kingston. I don't even wanna cross over. He's like, nah. Like, consider it. So I wasn't even interested. Yeah. So he's took it upon himself to go and buy the newspaper. You know where they have like all the clearance spaces and stuff.
Oh, right.
So he's like put that on my bed. He's like, you know what? Just have a look, and then see what comes out of it. Yeah. If it's nothing, then you just go back to Kingston. Yeah.
Like, sorry to cut you. So I didn't actually realize that there was a difference. So what's the difference between pharmaceutical science and
pharmaceutical science is industry based.
Okay.
So that's if you do pharmaceutical science, your career is kind of limited to, pharmaceutical companies.
Right.
GSK.
Yeah.
Merck.
Yeah.
Pfizer, Janssen. Yeah. Like you're limited to that kind of industry. Johnson. Whereas Johnson & Johnson. Whereas if you do pharmacy, you can work in the hospital, you can work in industry, you can work in community pharmacy. Yeah. There's now other jobs as well in terms of like consulting, AI. So studying the pharmacy degree kind of broadens your opportunities. Yeah. Whereas pharmaceutical science, like your path is kind of narrow. However, if you want to do pharmaceutical science, I mean, the industry is good. Like it pays well. Yeah. It is very competitive. It's very competitive. Yeah. That industry is a challenge in itself. Getting a job.
All right. Okay. Cool.
So you can do the degree.
Yeah, but getting an actual job.
Getting the job after. So there was a guy that I used to study with. He was on my course. Yeah. Finished his 4 years, got his masters. Yeah. But he had a part-time job in Greggs. Okay. So he finished his job. Couldn't get a job in pharmaceutical science, and he had to bang out hours in Greggs. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Imagine being in university for 4 years. Yeah, you've done your dissertation, you've done your experience and stuff.
Back to making steak bakes and that.
You see what I'm saying?
Greggs bangs though.
It does.
But after paying $3,000 a year for 4 years. Do you know what I mean? You're not trying to invest that money into becoming a manager or whatever it is.
But back to your, sorry, that was a tangent. So you put the newspaper in your bed. Yeah, so
I remember calling up Portsmouth and Hertfordshire, and they were like, we'll take you. So I was like, right, okay. Come down for an open day, see if you like it. Yeah. Then just choose. So now I had two offers on the table. Yeah. So I think the plan was to go to Hertfordshire first. So we went to the Hertfordshire Open Day, and then we were going to go to the Portsmouth Open Day. We went to Hertfordshire. I just said, I like it. It's closer to home. Plus I had a few friends there already. Yeah. So I just went with Hertfordshire. Did my 4 years there. Did my pre-registration training year. After that, sat my national exam. And
so was that part of the course?
Yeah, slow down, brother. So pre-registration, national, all of this. Okay. Explain that, please.
So you have to do 4 years degree. So you get a master's at the end of it. Okay. But then you have to do 1 year training, which is on the job. Right. And that kind of prepares you to work in practice, but also prepares you for the assessment that you have to take. Okay. So in order to become a registered pharmacist in the UK, you have to sit an exam. Right. 70% pass mark.
Mad.
Yeah. So
where did you do your Where did you do your year of work?
my year of training, I did that at Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Woolwich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that easy to get into? Was that competitive? How was that?
Hospital's always competitive. It's one of the industries that a majority of students want to go into. So it was very competitive. Not as competitive as it is now. Now it's very competitive. But at the time it was very competitive. And I think for me, what worked in my favour was that I did some summer placements during my years at university. Plus I had a part-time job at Boots as well.
Right.
So that kind of worked in my favour. Yeah. So I managed to get that.
Would you recommend pharmacy students to do that? Always be in work in relation to
definitely.
But then working while you're at uni is sticky as well.
Yeah, like for me, if I could go back, I probably wouldn't have worked in university.
Just so during university?
Yeah, during university.
Okay.
Just so that I could maximise my university experience and get the most out of it.
Okay.
But I would have still done the placements, like the summer placements and stuff like that. Because that boosts your CV. It separates you from all the other students. You know, there's like 120 students on average in each pharmacy school, and across the UK at the moment there's about 24 pharmacy schools.
Mad.
You know, so the numbers are quite high.
Yeah.
So how are you going to separate yourself, or how are you going to stand out amongst all those other pharmacy students? One of the ways to do that is by getting the experience, whether it's in hospital.
So taking a step back, sorry to cut you.
Yeah.
Taking a step back. So you've done, obviously you transferred from Kingston to Hertfordshire.
Yeah.
And then you've jumped straight onto your second year, innit?
No, I had to do the first year again.
Oh, you restarted the first year.
Alright, cool. Yeah, I had to do the first
so
year.
then after you've done the 4 years, you finished your masters.
Yeah.
So then you, like for the listeners who don't know, then you have to now reapply to go to another school for a year. Or is it
hospital or training? Yeah,
so
training.
So that's not funned by the university at all. That's you independently.
That's you have to
so
apply for it yourself.
You can choose not to do it if you don't want to.
Yeah, you can do if you don't want to, but then you won't be a registered pharmacist in the UK, so you won't be able to practice as a pharmacist in the UK.
Got you.
So pretty much everyone that does the 4 years pretty much does their 1 year training.
Yeah.
Do you have to do the 4 years? Because obviously most degrees are free. Is there a 3-year version of it, or do you have to do the...
No, you have to do 4 years. Right. Now it's mandatory that you have to do 4 years. They're trying to even make it to 5 years, and basically what they're trying to do is make it like a sandwich course, where you do that 1 year training as part of the degree.
But then that's a small piece for the uni. That's 9 months stretch. Yeah. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. It's all a hustle.
So is the training course the 1 year? You have to pay for that one as well.
No, you get paid.
Oh, really?
You get paid while you're on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Obviously, you don't get the full salary. Yeah, you get the pre-registration training salary.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not so bad then.
Yeah, no, it's not too bad. And for me, that 1 year, I would say, is what equipped me with the skills to work on the floor. I think a lot of the stuff you do in uni is very theoretical, but that 1 year training, although it's 1 year, you learn so much, that you're able to just apply those principles and those skills to your working day practice. And I think that 1 year is key to you becoming an efficient and an effective pharmacist.
Cool.
Okay.
We'll go into the things that you learned in that later on, but so after doing that, you do the exam.
Yeah.
And how was that for you?
I'm not gonna lie, the exam was alright,
Okay,
It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I remember maybe the exam's in June, so I remember back in April, I said, you know what, let me put my head down, focus, prepare myself for the next 3 months for this assessment. And literally, I just used to take out maybe like a couple hours a day just to revise and prepare. Then I remember the week before the assessment, I took that week off.
Okay.
Stayed in Peckham Library and just used to bang out the hours of revision. And literally, everything I looked at in that 1 week didn't come up in the assessment. The assessment was pretty much based on what I've learned or what I've seen throughout the whole year.
Okay.
So the assessment wasn't too bad. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't too bad. The pass rate was quite high at the time, so I think the pass rate was about between 80 and 90%, and because of that, they've had to tighten things up a bit. They made it a bit harder, but at the time it wasn't that bad.
Okay, cool.
And is it like a practical, or is it like a paper multiple choice kind of thing?
Paper. So the first paper is 2 hours long. That's a maths test. Closed book. So you do that in the morning for 2 hours, then you have a break, and then you have another 2.5 hour exam where they basically test your knowledge on things that you see in practice. So they will ask you questions about medications, lines of treatment, interactions, and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think it's changed now. I think the calculation test is a bit longer, and then they kind of shortened down that the second paper. But I think now that's even closed book. Before you used to get like open book, so you could look at certain resources. Now it's closed book.
You have to go off head.
Yeah, they do give you some sheets, like some supplementary sheets that you can look at. But now it's closed book, so it's a bit harder now. I think the pass rate now is around the 70% mark.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So passing your exams, doing the assessment, so then you're done. So what was the next step for you?
The next step for me was to find a job. So at the time, if you wanted to make money, they'll tell you contract, locum.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know what, I'm not necessarily going to go into like a fixed term position.
Yeah.
Even though there was like a position where I did my training, they had like a 3-year course where you could work and they would pay for you to do a diploma.
Yeah.
At the time, I was actually thinking of going to Ghana.
Okay.
To also go and get some experience there and maybe see if I could register. So I thought, you know what, let me locum, make some money, then I'll go to Ghana. Things didn't really go according to plan.
Yeah, what happened?
My dad passed, so my dad was my link in Ghana. So literally, I was gonna go stay with him. But literally, he passed like I think 10 days after I qualified.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was kind of hard. That was difficult. So I said to myself, do you know what? The Ghana window is probably not for now. So let me try and get a job here. So I managed to get a job here in Chelsea Westminster Hospital. They had like another 3-year program where they put you on a diploma, but you're also like a resident and rotational pharmacist. Cool. So they have like a 24-hour pharmacy service.
Right.
So literally, like you're doing nights, you're doing day shifts, and then you're also studying at the same time. That was a mad experience. Mad experience. I hated it at the time, but now I realize it was probably the best experience I could have had as a pharmacist, because it just teaches you how to deal with things under pressure. You're literally like the only pharmacist from about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock till the next morning. So any query, any medication supply, that's on you. So just being able to prioritize, and just handle the workload for me, and all the other pharmacists that have been through that program, you can see the difference.
Yeah.
You can see how they're able to manage the workload. You can see how they're good with their time, efficient, assertive. So I did that for about 18 months. It was a 3-year program, but I did that for 18 months. Because of that experience, I think it helped me to get a more senior position quite quickly. Because usually you have to wait 3 years before you can start applying for other roles. I just took a chance, applied for a role in mental health, and I managed to get that. That's what I've been since.
So how was that? So obviously you jumped from doing a course, which kind of, I guess is kind of like a teaser to how it is professionally.
Yeah.
How was it, the jump from actually doing it professionally? How was like kind of maybe the interactions with your colleagues? Like, did you have to learn a new culture? And obviously working, I'm guessing, Chelsea? Yeah. Is that, do you have to kind of learn how to deal with a different type of patient?
Okay. There was a culture shock in the end in Woolwich. There was a culture shock in a number of areas. So when you're a trainee pharmacist, obviously there are senior pharmacists. So in essence, they're responsible for any decision that you make. Whereas now you're a fully qualified pharmacist. The buck stops with you. So any decision that you make, you know, you have to be held accountable towards that decision. So the culture shock for me was, wow, like the minute I sign this prescription or hand this medication over, I've got to be sure that this is the right thing. So therefore I had to be, you know, let's say, I had to be a bit more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Confident?
Not necessarily confident, but
do your due diligence.
Yeah, I had to apply my due diligence and just, you know, double check, triple check things, make sure they're right. If I didn't know, you know, I had to know where my limitations were and be able to say, actually, I'm not too sure. Let me come back to you, look through the correct resources. So that was a shock in itself, because when you're doing your training and you're at university, more time you can just, you know, go on the internet, or you can ask someone, maybe like your lecturer or someone, and they can direct you or give you the answers. Whereas now, when you're practicing, it's different. You're expected to know these things, or if you don't know it, then you're expected to look it up and come back with an answer within 20 minutes.
Was this like a hospital, was it, or because when I see pharmacy, or when most people see pharmacy, you're thinking over the counter?
Okay, no, this was in a hospital. This was in a hospital. So in Chelsea, you spend part of your time on the wards, and then you spend part of your time in the dispensary where people would take their prescription and collect their medication. Spent time in a HIV clinic. Spent time in a septics dispensary where they prepare like chemo and stuff like that. So yeah, you get to get experience in all those different areas. And there's like culture shocks pretty much everywhere. Again, like the type of patients that you're dealing with, you know, you're dealing with, you know, affluent patients who want their medication and they want it now. You know, people that know about the medication that they're taking, so they're even asking you questions. You know, you're a junior pharmacist, you've just qualified, but someone's asking you about the receptors that the medication works on, and what are the side effects and that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So again, that was a shock to me, because you're expected to know this stuff. Like, how can you be giving out medication you don't know how it works? Do you know what I mean? So for me, it challenged me and made me, you know, have to go back and read on things. You know, some people just do their degree, start working, and that's it. But for me, there was like an element of continuous professional development. I always had to be on my game. Always had to read up on the medications that I'm handing out, because you can get asked a question at any time. A lot of the time, the colleagues that you're working with there are different to the colleagues that you'd be working with in ends. Like where I'm working now, do you know what I mean? Like where I'm working now, you could catch a lot of aunties and uncles. In Chelsea, it weren't like that. Do you know what I mean? So even in regards to the way you approach people, you know, consultants like to be addressed as Mr. and then their surname. Do you know what I mean? Whereas the consultants I work with now, they might just say, "Oh, just call me by my first name." Do you know what I mean? So again, that was a culture shock to me as well. And then, I think when I got to Chelsea, I was probably like the only black pharmacist, or one of two. So that was a culture shock in itself for me and for them, because they had their expectations. Do you know what I mean? So in terms of like just being on time, being organised, and to be fair, I probably wasn't the most punctual and the most organised person when I first started. But I remember there was an Oriental girl there. Do you know what I mean? Like, she was the closest to black.
Minority in the workplace.
You know what I mean? There was her and the one Asian girl. They helped me pattern up and just made sure that, you know, I worked to the expected standard and not fall into their stereotypes. Do you know what I mean?
I would have thought,
obviously, that's sick,
me being ignorant, I would have thought there would be a bit more Asians there, as in, because obviously when it on ends, everyone who's in the pharmacy. That's very true. But for some reason in Chelsea, at the time when I was there anyway, there weren't many Asians. Obviously, there were more Asians than blacks, but there weren't many. It was predominantly Caucasian workforce. Really?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
So this kind of stems off the question that you asked before. So obviously, most people's perspective of a pharmacist is they're over the counter in boots or whatnot. So what kind of things do pharmacists do that people don't realise?
I like the fact that you asked that question, because sometimes people bring their prescriptions to hospital and we're like, yeah, the waiting time's half an hour.
Yeah.
And they're like, half an hour? What do you mean? Just get it off the shelf and give it to me. But it's not like that. So when you give us a prescription, we have to check for interactions, make sure that the dose and the medication itself is the correct medication for your indication. Because although doctors go through years of training, sometimes they make mistakes.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? Sometimes they're not up to date with current guidance or current practice. There could be something that they don't know about. So you might be on some blood pressure medication, for example, and you've come in, let's say for gout, and they've prescribed a medication that might possibly interact with your blood pressure medication. So we would ask you, are you on any other medications? Whereas they're so busy upstairs, they might have forgotten that, and then we'll pick it up, have to contact them, recommend the alternative. So there are two things that we do when we receive a prescription. We check that the prescription is legal, in terms of like it's valid, the date's correct, it's got a signature, the person who prescribed it for you is registered, and then also we check it to make sure that it's clinically safe and therapeutic. So it's got to be safe, but it's also got to be able to work. Do you know what I mean? So we check that.
So how'd you do that, or is it just a database thing you just plug in?
So it is a database thing, which after a while it kind of sticks in your head. So you know that, okay, when you see a prescription for, let's say, paracetamol at 1 gram, you know that's a therapeutic dose. Cool, let it go. But you know, there are times where you have to double check with certain medications, especially, you know, some of those ones that have got a narrow therapeutic window. So that's one side of the pharmacy role in the dispensary. Another side is when you're on the wards. So you pretty much apply those same principles to the medication charts. So for your inpatients, you go around the bays, make sure that the medications that have been prescribed, the prescription is legal, it's valid, and then also make sure that it's clinically safe and therapeutic. Do you know what I mean? Because I could prescribe you 2.5 milligrams of a blood pressure medication. Although it may be safe, it might not actually work. Do you know what I mean? So we would make sure that actually it's the right dose for you, and the pressure. There's a lot of pressure on us to actually speed up or quicken your admission. Now, from a pharmacist point of view, we're supposed to optimize your therapy. So there's a program called like medicines optimization. So we'll look at your drug chart and say, okay, maybe they've predicted that you're going to be in hospital for 10 days. What can we do to reduce that length of admission to maybe 6 days, 7 days? Because every day you spend in hospital costs the NHS about £400 to £500 on average. But guess what? If we can reduce your length of admission by 3 days, we've saved the NHS 1,500. And sometimes you can do that through the optimization of medication. So our role comes in there as well. Also counseling patients on their medication. So when it comes to things like HIV, and someone's starting HIV medication for the first time, you sit down with them, go through their medication with them, let them know about any potential side effects. The same with medications in psychiatry. So there's a lot of elements to it that you don't see, or that people don't see. They just think we just take it off the shelf and give it to them. There's also drug budgets as well. So we've got to be in the back office, making sure that the doctor who's prescribing medication stays within his budget, or the department stays within their budget. So let's say the hospital's got a drug budget of £1 million, and each consultant has got a budget of, let's say, 100,000. We've got to make sure that whatever drugs they're prescribing for the year stays within 100,000.
Wait.
Bro, that's bad.
So let's say my girl's on cancer, innit? And she needs a certain amount of drugs so that she can live. And my guy's on, 999,000 and 98 pounds on the drug budget. So what happens?
So the budget for cancer medications, it comes from a different budget. It doesn't come from the consultants.
Because it's chronic, because it's ongoing.
No, just because of the kind of ailment and illness that it is. Do you know what I mean? There's a bit more lenience, and obviously chemo is very expensive, more expensive than your common drugs. So literally, that budget that a consultant's got for his medications could literally end from April to May, June, just because chemo drugs are so expensive. So there's actually a different pot for those drugs. But yeah, you do have to keep an eye on the amount that the doctors are spending.
What happens if the doctor overspends? That's the one.
So if he overspends,
downgrade the pills, like the water
You was
down.
on Panadol, now you're just on Tesco paracetamol.
to be fair, do you know, I haven't heard of a doctor, being struck off for overspending. I guess they'll just be more tighter on that. There'll be tighter restrictions on the doctor's prescribing. So us as pharmacists, we'll try and work with the doctor to say to them, actually, you keep on prescribing this expensive drug. Let's see if we can prescribe a cheaper alternative, one that's cost effective. So it's not that you just have to prescribe cheaper drugs.
Yeah,
we got to make sure that it's cost effective. But if the doctor is genuinely spending that amount on drugs and nothing can be done, then we have to look at ways of increasing the drug budget. How can we get money and that kind of thing.
Just hearing you say that, it's kind of mad that you're thinking about the medicine that you're giving people as like cheaper alternatives, because you just think they're giving you the one that works. But what's the impact of it being a cheaper alternative?
Do you know what? It all comes down to the cost and its effectiveness. So when I say a cheaper alternative, I don't mean that let's go for the cheapest drug possible. But for example, like you've got your Panadol and you've got your Sainsbury's paracetamol. Now if they both do the same thing, then let's go for the Sainsbury's paracetamol. Got you. A lot of the time the NHS looks for the Sainsbury's paracetamol because at the end of the day, there's a budget and you've got to keep within that budget. You all know the pressure that the NHS is under at the moment. So when I say cheaper alternative, it's not like they're running around China, India, trying to get the cheapest medication possible. But there's research that goes into it. Then they publish guidelines based on evidence that actually, maybe go for this drug because actually it's probably cheaper, but it can produce the same outcomes.
Got you. So one of the things I always like to ask is for someone trying to get into pharmacy today or become a pharmacist, are there different routes now that they can get into? Yeah.
So there's the traditional method where you can do your A levels. So you've got to do A levels in chemistry, maths. Those are the two main ones, and they ask for either biology or physics. But you can also do another A level if you wanted to. But the two main A levels are chemistry, maths. The lowest grade you can get now is a B.
Okay.
Lowest grade you can get now is a B, whereas the top universities will be looking for students with A's. So it's become much tougher to get into. When I was applying, I think you had to get 2 B's and a C.
Really?
Yeah. So they've tightened up the grades. But if you're able to achieve that, you get onto the 4-year degree and then do your national exam. So that's the traditional route to practicing pharmacy. However, there are some unis that do a foundation course. So you do a 1-year foundation course and then you go on to the pharmacy degree if you don't get the A levels that are required. Or you can do what I did, whereas you do pharmaceutical science for 1 year and then switch over to pharmacy. But even if you don't get the grades that are required in the first year of pharmaceutical science, you can actually finish the pharmaceutical science degree. So for the Bachelor of Science, it's 3 years. For the Master of Pharmaceutical Science, it's 4 years. And then you can go on to do the pharmacy degree if you want to.
Do you have to do a master's degree to get onto the course?
No.
You could just do bachelor's.
So you could do the bachelor's for 3 years and then jump on to the pharmacy degree. And even if you do that method, they'll probably let you jump on to second year rather than first, because a lot of the modules that you've covered in the pharmaceutical science degree are repeated in the pharmacy degree. So you could probably do 3 years.
So uni is necessary completely?
Uni is necessary. At the moment, there's talks about doing an apprenticeship into pharmacy. Personally, I don't think that's going to work. And I think if they did that, it would probably be detrimental to the career and the profession itself. Because at the moment, to get into pharmacy, you need to go to university. But if you're saying that, do you know what, you don't need to, you can just practice and learn on the job, then I think it makes it more accessible to more people. And then there's more people in the job market, becomes more competitive. You know, employers can now maybe lower their salaries, which they're starting to do already anyway.
But just basically cut corners on who's actually best
yeah,
at the job.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, you know, if I'm an employer and I need a pharmacist, there's a graduate who's gone to university that's expecting a certain salary. Or do you know what, I could just go for the apprenticeship, the apprentice who's done an apprenticeship and who probably doesn't have the same salary expectations as the graduate, but they've both learnt the same thing. Do you know what I mean? It's cheaper labour. So that's one of the things that they're talking about. I don't think it's gonna go ahead, but you never know. But at the moment, if you wanted to do pharmacy, then you've got to go to university. There is another role called the pharmacy technician, which is quite a good role as well. And basically that role kind of supports the pharmacist in hospital, in community, so like your Boots or your Superdrug or wherever. So you don't actually need to go to university for that. You just need to do a college course, which I think is about 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can jump straight on.
And then you can do that.
So where are you working now? So you're in Maudsley Hospital.
Yeah.
So obviously that's a big jump from where you was before.
Yeah.
So this is more specialized in
psychiatry, mental health.
Psychiatry. So was that more? Why did you decide to go into a specialism, or was it just something where?
Yeah. So at Chelsea, part of the program, because remember I said it's like a 3-year course that you do alongside working. Part of the program is that you rotate through different specialities.
Okay.
So I did HIV, endocrinology, surgery, and I also got the opportunity to do mental health.
Okay.
And one thing I found about mental health was that you're more valued as a pharmacist.
Okay.
Number one, and then number two, there were a lot of opportunities in mental health because of the stigma around mental health.
Got you.
You know, as soon as people hear a job in mental health, they're like, no, I don't want to do it, it's risky, and that kind of thing. But actually, I enjoyed it, and I found myself making more of an impact in mental health. So I said, you know what, that's the area that I wanted to go into. Job came up, which was in the ends, local. So I thought, all right, you know what, let me apply for it.
So you've been there for?
I've been there for now 5.5 years.
So
a long time, too long.
Too long.
What are the challenges with being a pharmacist in mental health? What kind of things do you have to deal with?
Like the difference in it.
For me, I would say one of the main challenges is that getting people to see medication as a positive method of treatment. One of the things about mental health is that a degree of patients don't have insight into their illness. When you start talking about things like schizophrenia, you know, they don't believe that they have schizophrenia or bipolar. Some people don't agree with the diagnosis of bipolar. And trying to convince them that actually you need this medication to stay well, you need this medication to stay out of hospital, can be difficult and can be a challenge. So just being able to have that, you know, that dialogue with them can be, it can take a lot out of you. You know, I've had to deal with patients and their mothers like shouting at me down the phone, like, why is my child or why is my, you know, wife or husband on this medication? You're trying to explain it to them, why they're on it, how it works, and that kind of thing. But I'm not even the person that puts them on it. It's the consultant, but they've prescribed it for them, and they say, do you know, if you've got any questions, just go ask the pharmacist. So you're kind of, you're kind of in the middle. You know, just trying to make it seem like, not even make it seem, but just trying to put the message across that actually the medication is there to help them. There is a benefit. Obviously, all medication has side effects. Do you know what I mean? So we have to be honest as well and open and let them know that there are side effects. And try and help them select a medication that works for them, but won't give them too many side effects. So we have to sit down with them, explain the side effects to them, and then help them to make a decision, which can also be difficult in itself with someone who is mentally unwell. So a lot of the patients that I deal with have got schizophrenia. So sometimes they don't have the capacity or the insight to be able to, let's say, make a decision in their best interest. That's not always the case, but sometimes it can be, especially the ones that are admitted into hospital due to being very unwell. So that can be a challenge, and especially when it's with your people as well. So, you know, a lot of the people that are admitted into South London, the Maudsley Hospital, are of the African or Caribbean community, and you know, there's a stigma behind mental health and behind medication as well. So when they see a black man trying to give them medication, you know, some people might think, what? So you've joined
It's even worse.
The white man to come and poison me, or that kind of thing.
So you find it worse that you're black giving them medication, or you don't think that they think, okay, if you're black, then it's cool?
No. But a majority of the time, they think like, well, why are you giving me this? Come on, man, you should know that our people, we don't take these medications. Medications don't agree with us, or they're trying to use us for research and that kind of thing. But I just try to flip it and say to them, look, do you know what? Like, I understand what you're going through. I know the challenges that you might have experienced growing up and that kind of thing, the stigma behind mental health in our culture and that kind of thing, and just try and come at it from that angle, like, you know, I'm trying to help you, I'm on your side, I understand where you're coming from. Do you know what I mean? And then try and give them an open and honest perspective about their medication. There are some patients that I've told them, do you know what? I don't think medication's for you. I don't think you need to take medication long term. But there are some patients where I have to say, this is the scenario. This is the scenario. I think you're going to be on medication long term. And I think when you can have an open and transparent conversation with them, I think they appreciate it. Especially when you're someone that looks like them, talks like them, you know, from the same country or continent or area. I think they appreciate it more.
Dope. So let's move on a bit from your pharmacist stuff. So you're also a lecturer at university. So you're a busy man, bro. So let's dive into that, and like, what do you teach, or like, how is it for you?
So with the degree, what they try and do is have a number of people that are actually practicing to come back and tell the students what it's like and apply their practice to what they're learning in the classroom. So that was pretty much it. Like, at the time, my form tutor, she was head of a module, and then she dropped me an email like, yo, would you like to come back and get involved in some of the workshops, seminars and lectures? So I was like, yeah, cool, why not? So I don't go too often because I have to take time off to go and do it. But I try and do it like 4 times a year, 5 times a year.
Still pretty good.
Yeah, where you just go in, help them with exams, even mock exams, help them with workshops. So literally they kind of set out the goals or the objectives that they want us to achieve. Sometimes the material is there already, but you've just got to adapt it to your clinical practice and just help the students understand it from a perspective of someone who's actually on the field. Because, you know, a lot of the academics they're teaching them from a theory perspective, what's in the textbook. Whereas it helps to get someone who's on the ground that's saying, actually, do you know what, although the textbook says this is another way you can look at it, or, you know what, things don't actually always go according to how the textbook says it, and this is how you make your decision.
Makes sense.
So how do you like find it as a lecturer, like with the students, the interactions? Like how does that go?
Yeah, it's good, you know. It's interesting to be at the other end of the classroom, because, you know, we were all once students looking at the whiteboard. Now
you're behind the whiteboard.
You're behind the whiteboard.
In front of the whiteboard.
Yeah, in front of the whiteboard. And then learning from like past lecturers' mistakes. You can make sure you don't repeat those mistakes. I think being the kind of person that I am, I could just go in there and command a different kind of respect, and just, you know, teach them what needs to be taught. Whereas maybe some of the other lecturers might struggle, especially with people or students from a different demographic.
Yeah.
But also you can be real with them as well, and not just teach them about, you know, pharmacy, but you can also give them life experiences as well. And I think for me that was the key reason as to why I wanted to be a visiting lecturer, so that I can tell them about, you know, the things they don't tell you in the classroom, and then help them to not make the same mistakes that I did, and be able to, you know, excel in their pharmacy career.
Cool. So like, I'm not gonna lie, bro. Your job sounds like stress, bro. So like, what's like in terms of like a team, or like what am I trying to say? Like teamwork, or like work office culture dynamics. Maybe not so focused on a job, but maybe just outside banter and stuff like that. How's that like? Or is it everyone just so intense, just around it? Let me make sure I count 5 pills and 6 that type of bro.
Do you know what? It varies. You know, it varies. It depends on where you work.
Okay.
There are some work environments which are chilled, relaxed. Maybe they've even got the radio on and they're doing their work. And there are some where, you know, like they're
so what's your one like at the moment? Is it just like
at the moment where I am now? I'd say we're chilled, but we're also very focused when it comes to our work.
Yeah.
So there's a time to play, and there's also a time to, you know, concentrate and focus. So you can have a life, you know, after work. People can meet up, and, you know, you can have banter.
Okay.
But obviously it's got to be limited, because at the end of the day you're counting someone's tablets. You know, you're looking at someone's prescription, and if you make a mistake, potentially that person could die.
Do
you know what I mean? So I can't be in there, you know, busting joke with the next man like yo. Do you know what I mean? It's got to be limited. But in saying that, you know, people have a good time there. You know, they talk about Love Island and whatever's going on, football and stuff like that. So yeah, the work culture, it depends where you are, but where I am now, it's cool. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, man.
Do you feel like there's anything you would do differently in your career if you had the opportunity to?
Ooh. Do you know what? If I could go back, I believe there's a reason for everything, innit? But if I could go back, I would have probably gone on to do medicine.
Okay.
After completing my national assessment, national exam, I would have probably gone on to do medicine.
Why is that?
Just because I would say there's more opportunities in medicine now. The pharmacy market has become tough. You know, it's very competitive. In fact, I remember when I finished university, getting a training post was easy. You may not have got it in hospital, but you could have got it somewhere else. Whereas now, there are people that actually finish university and are not able to get a training post. Just because now, there are more pharmacy schools and pharmacy student places than there are training posts. And there are more training posts than there are jobs. So it's made it very competitive. Whereas, you know, medicine, bro, there's jobs out there. Out there, and you see it on the news. Like we don't have enough doctors, and because of that, the reward is greater. Do you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, it requires a lot, because even after you finish your degree, again there's a training program which can range from about 7 to 10, 12 years before you become a consultant. But literally after you've done that and you've passed it, you could be on, you know, average 100 grand. Apart from that, you can set up your own private clinic or private practice. You can do a bit of research on the side. So as a doctor, I feel like there's a lot more opportunities to make money, and it's easier for you to get a job. It's very autonomous as well. So, you know, as a doctor, as a consultant, I mean, what you say goes kind of thing. You're in charge of your day when you see your patients and that kind of thing. Whereas with pharmacy, it's not so much like that. So if I could go back, I would have probably done medicine. Other than that, if I were to stick with pharmacy, maybe I would have considered going into industry as well. Just because I feel like in industry there's a better work-life balance. When you work in NHS, the higher up you go, there's a lot more responsibility. And it's not always rewarded in the best way possible. You know, if I'm being honest, I don't think that the salary matches the level of responsibility in pharmacy, the higher up you go.
Okay.
Whereas if you're in industry, it's different. Do you know what I mean? If you're
public sector, isn't it?
Yeah, do you know what I mean? If you're the final signatory in the industry, in private sector, they're paying you for that. Do you know what I mean? Whereas, because there's not enough money in the NHS, there's more so people are trying to ask you or trying to palm off responsibilities to you. You know, in your current grade. So you're doing more work now for the same amount of money.
Same money,
Is there still that opportunity for you to pivot to private?
Or to pivot to
To go into industry, there is that opportunity there. But to go into medicine, there is still that opportunity there. But it means I've got to go back to uni. And then once I've done that, do the training program. Do you know what I mean? So when you've got a daughter, you can't really. And you've got mouths to feed. You can't really say, you know what? I mean, you could make that sacrifice. Do you know what I mean? But I don't think I'm in that position at the moment to be able to make that sacrifice.
So at the moment, obviously, you started off your own company, innit?
Yeah.
So what's that about? How does that link to your expertise?
So do you know what? As part of my role, I'm a non-medical prescriber.
Okay.
So I can actually prescribe medications for mental health illnesses. That's what I mainly focus on. But I can also prescribe medications in areas or specialist areas that I'm comfortable with.
Okay.
So one of the things that people tend to ask me about a lot of the time is, where can I get my malaria tablets if I'm about to travel and that kind of thing.
Okay.
So after I did my prescribing course, I just thought, you know what, I can actually now provide like a service which is able to prescribe these anti-malarial medications for people, and then I've partnered up with a couple of pharmacies to supply these people with medications as well. So that's what we do at the moment. We're how can I put it? We're a concierge service.
Push that.
we're a concierge service. So
legal dope.
Yeah. So literally, we will find out where you're traveling to, what medications you require, and then sort out the prescription for you, send it off to one of the partner pharmacies, and get it delivered to you. And the aim of that is, the culture that we're in, people like convenience. Do you know what I mean? No one wants to take time off work. You've got 25, 27, 30 days annual leave in the whole year. You don't take one day to go to a doctor to prescribe you medication, and then to wait in the pharmacy for your medication to come, or to travel around trying to get the medication. So the idea is that, we bring convenience to you. And, all for a cost-effective price.
You can plug away, bro.
Yeah, that's the essence of the business, really. So in addition to that, we also try and source medications for people as well, not just in the area of travel. It could be anything. Do you know what I mean? We will try and source it for you. For example, we've got people abroad, let's say, who live in Dubai, or in Ghana, Nigeria, who require medications when they come over here.
Got you.
So what we'll try and do is partner them up with a doctor that can see them, assess them, and then continue the medications for them.
So how does someone require these services?
So the best way to do it is to email us. That's the best method to get in contact with us. Our email address is info@medsolutions.org.uk. Or you can visit our Instagram page and just drop us a DM, and then someone will get back to you.
What's the Insta?
Insta is medsolutions. @medsolutions.
Clean.
Okay, cool. You haven't answered the email question.
I've asked so many questions. So alright, cool. Don't expect you to divulge, but at the same time, with a mind. But so what's the piece that she's saying? In your trade at the moment, or even when you first entered your first job.
Okay, so I would say the average salary when you first start, I'd say is about 20 to 22k during your training year. Yeah. So depending on where you manage to get a post, you can earn anything from about 18 to about 24 a year. I think some places, if you manage to get a hospital, you might get a little bit more than that, actually, maybe 25, 26. As a practicing pharmacist, average salary, I'd probably say at the moment is about 40k. And that's even after maybe 3-4 years of experience.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah, when you first start, now it's about 30k.
Okay.
When I qualified, when you first start, you're looking at maybe like 34.
Yeah.
But now, as I said, because it's so competitive, it's gone down. So you're looking at about 30k. Maybe after about 5 years, you can get that up to about 40k. And depending on what you do, I mean, if you go into like a leadership role, you can go beyond that 40k. But for me, I feel like the ceiling in pharmacy is quite low.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, as I said, especially for the amount of responsibility you take on as you go higher up the ladder. Don't get me wrong. If you become a chief pharmacist, you can be on 90 to 100k. Do you know what I mean? But then again, you're responsible for the whole running of the pharmacy department. That requires late nights, weekends, traveling up and down the country. You don't necessarily get to have a good work-life balance, which for someone like me is important. So I would say, the average at the moment, let's say after about 5 years experience, I'd say about 40 to 50k. But if you're smart and you think outside the box, you can make more than that. You can make more than that.
100%. So it wasn't that E-man question. It was the work-life balance E-man question. So you kind of touched on it in what you just said. So as far as like outside of work and like relationships, family, you mentioned you have a daughter, like do you feel like your work impacts on those things? Obviously you do lecturing and you have run your own business, like does your work impact?
Or how did it when you was training and etc.? Like,
So
do you feel like you missed out on certain things?
Yeah, definitely. So I had my daughter when I was in last year of uni. That's like your dissertation year, final year. Like your performance in that year pretty much makes up your grade. So university was in Hertfordshire. I lived in Hertfordshire, in Hatfield. My daughter was in London. So that first year of her life, pretty much, I was in university. That was a sacrifice I had to make, which I could have probably done it a bit better. But you're young at the time. I'm just thinking, I got to get the grade that I need to get so that I can get a job, so I can get paid. So I had to make that sacrifice then. And then in my training year, again, it was pretty much work and study, because at the end of the day, your performance in that assessment determines whether the last 4 years have been worth it or not. You know what I mean? And that assessment, you only get 3 attempts. If you fail all 3 attempts, which I know people who have, you fail all 3 attempts, you can't practice as a pharmacist
at all.
Nice. Full stop.
Okay.
Like you can do work in the pharmaceutical industry.
But as a pharmacist,
not
as a pharmacist. No.
No.
So again, that was important for me. So where people had got their graduate jobs and were just working, and then after meeting up for drinks, I couldn't do that. I had to meet up with people that I used to go uni with to study and look through past papers and that kind of thing. My first job at Chelsea Westminster Hospital, that was a killer on my work-life balance, because I was doing night shifts, weekend shifts. That was crazy. Like literally, I remember going to christenings, let's say in the morning, and having to leave at 2 or 3 p.m. before the after parties even started, just to go and start like the evening shift at work. I remember like finishing on a Sunday morning at 8 a.m. I've just done a night shift, finishing at 8 a.m. and literally having to go home, shower, change, just to go to church. Finish church, maybe get a couple of hours sleep to come back and do another night shift. Plus you're studying as well, so that had a great effect on my work-life balance. But when you're young, you can kind of just get on with it. And then I think as I got older, the work-life balance didn't change, but it started to have an effect on me, a negative effect. And I had to get to a point where I said, you know what, nah, like I have to get this balance right. If not, you know, I'm just going to be one of those people that's just on a treadmill, working. You know, you're not getting that balance right. All you're doing is working, basically, till you die. And one of the things that my dad said to me was, don't kill yourself because of work, you know. Because you kill yourself because of work. That day they'll say, oh, he was a nice guy. A couple of weeks' time, there'll be someone else in your role doing the work. They would have forgotten about you. So now, for me, that work-life balance is important. Don't get me wrong. To excel in your career, you have to put in the hours. You have to go the extra mile. But there's a limit on that for me. So, for example, if I finish work at 5:15 or 5:30, the latest I'm staying behind is until 6:30. If I've got work to do, maybe I'm gonna come in a little bit earlier and start at 8:30 instead of 9. But I've got my limits. I've got my days where I say, do you know what? No, you know, you have to be able to delegate work. Which I think for me was a bit difficult at first, because when you're the only black boy in your work, you're trying to impress people. So when they're giving you work, you're just saying, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. But nah, man, you've got to find that balance, and there's nothing wrong with saying no. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, when you first start, you can't go in there and be like, oh, you know what? Because some people go in with that attitude, and it's wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, you finish work at 5:30, 5:29, your jacket's on. You're walking out the door. You're walking out the door when there's work to be done. You're like, bye, guys. Some people don't even saying bye. They're just sneaking out the door. Do you know what I mean? Man. But you do have to put in the extra hours. You know, if you want to be a cut above the rest. But then, for me, there's limits now. There's limits.
Do you think that would have impacted you? Like, for example, we've had guests on here like who see it as like they have other goals, like getting married and stuff like that. Do you think that would have impacted you? Like, in that way, would you have got married sooner, or like how do you see it? Or did you have a goal like I'm gonna work until I'm a certain age and then slow down and do whatnot?
In regards to your first question, I don't think I would have got married sooner. I think there's an ordained time for everything. But in my head, I did have that plan that I'm going to work until a certain time because I want to be a family man. So by the time, you know, I start a family, even though I've started already, but by the time I get married and, you know, I have like more kids and stuff, I want to be able to have an influence in my children's upbringing. I want to be able to drop them off at school, pick them up, attend, you know, parents' evenings, attend their plays, assemblies, and that kind of thing. And I feel like the only way you can do that is if you are of a certain or at a certain level in your workplace. So you need to be someone senior in order to be able to command your day. You know, in order to say, actually, you know what, I got to pick my child up, so I'm leaving at 3:30. I'm going kind of thing, and delegate it to someone else. So the plan for me was, you know, do the course at Chelsea, do the non-medical prescribing course, like get into management, do the MBA, so that at least, you know, in a few years' time, I'm at a level where I can, do you know what I mean? I'm in charge of my day. I'm a bit flexible. That way I can have that balance, right? Because for me, my career is just a source of income. But I don't think that's my purpose.
Got you.
Do you know what I mean? But we won't get into that. But
that's why we're here, isn't it?
That's why I feel like the balance has got to be correct.
Do
you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, there's going to be a time where, you know,
it's true.
We got to go. Do you know what I mean? And I don't want to be one of those people where I'm on my deathbed and I'm like, well, you know, I wish I did this, I wish I did that. And all my life has just literally been building up someone else's empire, working for the government. Do you know what I mean? Even if you don't get to start your own business or something like that, your children are your seed. You know, the influence that you have on people determines what they become in future. Do you know what I mean? And even if you're not here, they're going to remember the impact that you had on their life. Do you know what I mean? And that's the opportunity. The time that we have now is our opportunity to have influence, have impact on people, and to do other things, you know, build a legacy, build a foundation for your wife, for your children. Do you know what I mean? I can't do that if I'm at work from 9 till 9.
Yeah, got you. Yeah, that's the point. That's the reason why I asked the email question, just to give, because obviously we get guests from a range of career paths and etc. Some people are just like the work is what they enjoy and they love, and that's what defines them as a person. And some people, this actually just said, see it as an income, and like, okay, so what is more, I wouldn't say beneficial, but what's more important to them, work-life balance or as a holistic view, or it's just your career type of thing, innit? So
like you said, I think you're right. It varies for different people. I mean, for me, my job or my career doesn't define me. Do you know what I mean? So I don't feel like I should focus all my attention and all my energy on my career, whereas for someone else, that's that's their thing. That's where they find their identity. So obviously, if that's where it is, then you're gonna have to invest your time in there. It's just different. It's just different for different people, and it also depends on the sector that you work in. For example, I've got a friend that's a solicitor. Like, that's my bro, and literally, like, we used to live together, and his hours were mad. You know, he would be in the office from 9:30 to 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m. Not necessarily because he loves his work, although he enjoys being a solicitor, but that's what the work demands. That's what it requires. Do you know what I mean? So in that field, you can't say I'm leaving at 5:30, even though they pay you till 5:30, because there's work to be done. If you want to move up the ladder, you got to get the work done. Do you know what I mean? So it also depends on what sector you're in.
So on the same vein as well, we didn't even touch on your MBA, but obviously you started Daddy Series podcast. You want to talk about that? What's it about? And why you started it?
Wow. So the Daddy Series podcast, basically the idea came about from myself and a few of my friends having similar experiences in terms of being a father at a young age, especially when you're not together with the mother of the child. And literally the themes were pretty much the same when we used to get together and talk about our experiences. And what's crazy was there was people out there that I would meet on a day-to-day basis that were going through the same experiences, but you wouldn't even know, because they tend not to talk about it. For some reason, men tend to not talk, you know, about their experiences, about their emotions, kind of thing. So I was literally talking with one of my friends at Vesco, and the idea came about, do you know what, like, I think people would benefit from hearing our experiences, and that should help them to make certain decisions and not make the mistakes that we made. So we started the Daddy Series podcast in 2018. It was literally just me and him, getting guests to come in and share their experiences, female guests as well, just to share their experiences on co-parenting. And literally it just started as something that we thought, you know what, let's just get together and talk about it. But there was a lot of interest from it, and there were people that could relate to what we were discussing. And we just been doing it since. We kind of took a break, I'd say, from maybe last summer till about now. There are things that we want to do in terms of moving the podcast forward, but it's just finding that time to do it. My friend that I was doing it with, he was away for a bit as well, working in another country. He's back now, so hopefully this year we should be able to get it back up and running again now.
Cool. Dope. So make sure you guys tune into the Daddy Series podcast. That's what you need to
say? That's what it is. So we've got our Instagram page, the Daddy Series, and you can also listen to episodes on SoundCloud as well, and on iTunes. Just search the Daddy Series podcast.
Dope. So we appreciate you coming and joining us, Kwame. How can people get in touch with you or reach out to you?
Pretty much through the socials. So you can just at me on Instagram as the plantain connoisseur.
Mad. Alright, say that.
That's not a taste.
But you can hit me up on there, really. I've got a Twitter page, but I don't really use it that much. I can't even remember what mine is. But
LinkedIn?
I've got LinkedIn as well. So just search Kwame Peprah. And if you've got any questions about pharmacy or just in life in general, I'm always happy to talk to people, share my experiences. Cool. So you can hit me up on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn or Instagram.
Dope. Yeah, so this is the Ends to Excellence podcast. Thank you for listening. Boom.
Thank you for having me, man.
Hey, man, thank you, bro. Appreciate it. All right.
It's all right.